Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I am Letty and this is my creative space for sewing, knitting and all the other crafty projects that I can come up with. Since this is my first video, I thought I would give you a little bit of an introduction into my sewing journey and where all the shenanigans basically began. I'm coming from a very crafty family and my grandmothers knitted. They sewed as well, but one of my grandmothers, she always was knitting during the evening when she watched TV, and I think I picked up that habit quite good from her. And my mom, as far as I remember, she always made clothes for me and also for my siblings. So yeah, I knew from the beginning that everything you want to do, you can do. You just have to try it. That is basically what they taught me. And yeah, when I was little, they taught me how to sew. Just the basics, but I didn't pick it up when I was young. I didn't have the great interest in it. Later on, around the time I was 16, 17, I became super interested because I saw all the fancy corsets that people were wearing in the goth parties, and I wanted one. All the corsets that you can buy, and I think you still can buy it if it's just like these regular industrial made ones, they look ugly, they don't fit right, and yeah, everyone had the same, and I don't want to have the same as other people. So I thought, why not give it a try to try it yourself? So it led me through a rabbit hole in the internet. I stumbled upon a very nice forum where you could find instructions about not just making a corset, but also how you measure yourself, how you then calculate a corset pattern, adjusting to your size that you really need, and not just, this is the one size, this is the next size, and you have to deal with it. So no, it was really drafting from the beginning, which I absolutely liked. Of course, the first corset, and therefore my first garment was not the prettiest of all, but I was super proud that I made it. And it didn't fall apart. Isn't it the fear of everyone who's just started to sew, that clothing will fall apart? Yeah, it lasted I think for a little bit, but it was the first thing I didn't like it too much, and I then ventured into other corsets and also garments. So nowadays I not only sew garments, I also try to sew and draft patterns for accessories, either for my road bike or also for running and hiking. So I try to find little things that are missing in my collection, and I try to give it a try and make them myself. Sometimes successful and sometimes not, but hey, that is the journey that we are all in for, and that is what I love so dearly about crafting and making. In the beginning I also blogged, but it didn't feel so natural to me. When I stumbled upon YouTube and all the creative content that you can find, either for sewing, knitting, embroidery, spinning, weaving, whatever, it was so inspiring for me. And I still watch a lot, and especially in the evenings when I'm knitting, I tend to go to YouTube and watch other people's content, because it is so unique to see how different patterns flow on different body types, and how a garment actually looks when it's made up and not just taking a photograph of. YouTube is definitely my go-to reference nowadays. If I go for a new pattern, I would try to find someone who made a video about it to just see what the fit is, and also what kind of troubles the person maybe had. And I also really like the fact when people talk about their process of making something and their thought process prior to actually dive into the project. And so I really like all the details. I would like to hear them all. So yeah, I really like that nerdy topic of the construction and everything. So I hope that my content will fit in with those things, or at least it will inspire you to make something, and don't be afraid to try something new or try something complicated, or at least what other people say it's complicated. Sometimes you didn't find it or don't find it so complicated at all. So in the first video I would like to share some of my latest makes, which are definitely not seasonal. One is seasonal, but I don't tend to sew very seasonal. So it's more like, what do I need? Do I have it in my wardrobe? What needs replacement? And so that is my approach for sewing. I go more with the flow instead of planning. I tend to plan some things, but it's more like, hey, I need a new coat, I need a new tights or whatever. So it's not specific to one garment. It's not specific to one project that is the pattern XYZ. So yeah, that is my approach. And today I would like to share with you it's actually 5, but 3 patterns that I made recently and 2 that I'm currently working on. Let's start with the first one. I have some notes here. People who know me from maybe the podcast know that I do have notes and I try to follow them. So if I'm looking to whatever that site is for you, there's my notepad, and I definitely have to check if I don't forget anything. The first project that I would like to share with you today is a coat. In December last year, I had the problem, or the incident better to say, with some moths in my old coat, and yeah, it was not really usable anymore. I had to throw it away, and of course that happened right the week before the pretty cold season in Germany started. I mean, we didn't have a lot of cold season last year and this year, but it happened really before that. And I figured out that maybe I can come away with my spring and autumn coat, but no, it was definitely not possible, and therefore I needed to check what kind of a new coat I would like to try out. My last coat was more fitted and flared, which is a style that I like, but I figured out that for the winter season, I don't like it as a coat. I like it for dresses, but yeah, the coat was a little bit annoying to handle, and this swooshing around was nothing I really liked. So I thought I would give it a try to find a new pattern that is more straight lined as my other coat is, and I checked online what kind of nice patterns I can find. By the end, I found 3 patterns that I really liked. The first one was from the Avid Seamstress, the coat, the Tessuti Fabrics Oslo coat, and the last one, that is the coat that I actually made by the end, is the Alex coat by Atelier Jupe. So for me, the Alex coat was the prettiest by the end, even though they are all quite similar. But the style lines of the coat were very nice. So maybe I will grab it. So it has very pretty style lines. The front has princess seams, and it is kind of broken up with the style lines of the the pockets. So it had a little bit more interest in the front going on, which I quite liked. And I never had angled pockets, and I thought, maybe I will give it a try. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't, but yeah, this is something that definitely drew me to the pattern. And also, all of the coats had a very deep neckline, and for me, it was not really a good sign when a winter coat has a very deep neckline that exposes your chest to the cold. I mean, Berlin is not the coldest of all cities, but still, I'm a very cold person, and I need to wrap stuff up around me. And I thought, yeah, the Alex coat is maybe the best of all options, which later on I figured out, like, no, the photos a little bit fooled me, I would say. I thought that would come up higher, the neckline, but it was super deep. I fixed that problem, but yeah, I definitely thought it would be the best, which was not. Another thing is the coat has a vent. I never had a vent before made, so I think, yeah, you can see it here, has a nice vent. I really like that detail, and I thought it would be a good way to also learn about that technique and expand my skill set for sewing in that department. And the last reason that definitely sold that coat to me was the pure fact I can get a paper pattern, ship it to me to Germany. Since they are shipping from Belgium, it's not super expensive and still more affordable with the shipping costs and a paper pattern as for going and print it somewhere else, because it's quite expensive if you only have one pattern to print from. So yeah, I figured out that this would be then the best idea. In terms of styles, in terms of sizes, it has a good size range, but if you are in the imperial system, you will hate the pattern because it only comes in centimeters. So for me, I'm a metric person, it was perfect, but yeah, they only give you the measurements as far as I saw in a paper pattern with centimeters, which is quite annoying. And I checked the website again and I didn't find the imperial measurements, so I converted it to maybe help you out with that, but maybe you find that a little bit of a disadvantage if you are more in the imperial, familiar with the imperial system. So the size range is from EU 34 to 52, and that correlates to the UK size 6 to 24. The bust size is from 84 to 128 centimeters. That correlates to 33 to 50 inches. The waist is from 68 to 112 centimeters. That would be equal to 26.5 to 44 inches. And the hip measurements range from 92 to 132 centimeters. That correlates to 36 to 52 inches. So it's a good range. And the pattern is drafted for a height of 168 centimeters, which is my height. So I thought it would be also a great fit for me to then try that pattern. The recommended fabric is a medium to heavy coat fabric like wool blends or polyester. And their skill level is a 4 out of 4. So I would also say, yeah, you definitely have to have some experience to get that coat pattern to work or to not struggle too much. Before I even ordered the fabric that I will show you in a moment, I made a muslin for that coat. And I choose the size according to my measurements, EU 36, which is UK 8. I thought that maybe my back would be an issue. That is always an issue for me for patterns that I can maybe get them fit more or less right around the waist area or the hip area, but the bust, or more precisely the back area, is for me the biggest problems, and because all of the patterns have drafted patterns for more standard petite size backs, and my back is quite wide, so I always have an issue in that department. But with that coat I made the muslin and I thought it is still good enough of a fit and that I don't have to change anything, and I would say it is still the same after I made it up in the wool. So I hopefully don't scratch the lining with the nail. I used for the main fabric a very heavy a very heavy boiled wool in black, obviously. It's very, very heavy and sturdy and a little itchy if you come too close or have it for too long on your mostly bare skin. But yeah, it's a very nice and warm wool that I found. I opted for a very heavy one since I need one coat that is really going down to, let's say, minus 10 degrees or minus 15 degrees. That is usually the temperature range that I don't have something around now. So that was my goal with that coat. Therefore, the heavy fabric. And for the lining, as you can see in the inside, I opted for a navy blue viscose lining. I worked with that exact lining before and I love it. It doesn't give you any static tingles when you take it off. It is nice and drapey, and yeah, you can slip in with your arm very easily. I really love that fabric. The only downside, it is the same navy fabric that I had, so I had a little bit left over from the previous coat, and I used the exact same color now in the winter coat. So now the autumn and the winter coat have the same color, which I don't like, but hey, I opted then to put in a little, what is it called, piping. I have black piping at home and I lined it with this yellow orange, I think it's sunshine yellow, to give it a little bit more interest in the inner lining, and maybe even give it a little bit more of a professional look, because I quite like that detail. Not that it is I mean, it's not that it's super difficult, but it also doesn't make your life any easier if you handle already quite a heavy amount of fabric under your machine. Another thing I liked to add, since I saw it with all the fancy coats, they have such nice little labels in the front, always on one of the front sides. So I used my time wisely while the fabric was on my way to me, and I embroidered a little label, which is just a regular Ida fabric that you use for embroidery. It's not the correct for black work, but black work is the style of embroidery that I used for this coat. And yeah, I have to say I quite like it, and it picks up the color from the ribbon quite nicely, so it goes together very well. In terms of interfacing or interlining, the pattern calls for, I think, I'm not sure which kind of interlining it was or interfacing. I opted for a very heavy canvas lining for the bodice that is similar to a horsehair lining that you can get, and the sleeves are lined with just this regular fusible interfacing that you can find everywhere. So a lightweight here in the arms and sleeves, and a very heavy one in the body, so that it gives a lot of structure to the coat. Yeah, what do I have to say about the process? It is a process that takes some time. I mean, obviously it's a coat, but for me, I think it took around 2 weeks. Oh, I have to get that coat on the floor since it's a little itchy on my legs. Yeah, it took around 2 weeks to make it. I didn't have too much time on the weekend, so I only sewed it up during the week after work hours. It's a nice project to cut it down into pieces that you then sew up one day after another, and therefore you don't have the overwhelming process of making a coat on, let's say, 3-4 days. So you spread it out nicely, and then it's a little bit less overwhelming, I would say. So yeah, it took me around 2 weeks, and one thing I noticed as a disadvantage of my fabric choice is the heavier your fabric, the heavier you have to turn it around and lay it flat on your sewing table while you're sewing it, because there are so many layers that you have to go through with your needle. It is quite yeah, not annoying, but you have to be careful. And I also based it a lot, I think even some things by hand, to really get a good stitching line on the pieces. But yeah, especially in the sleeves, yeah, when you attach the sleeves, you have a lot of fabric going on, and you have to turn your garment basically all the time to handle it on the sewing table. So if you have a lighter fabric, maybe that becomes a little bit easier, but yeah, you have to deal with that basically. Yeah, one thing I wanted to try out with that coat pattern, or with the coat in general, but I didn't do it. I would like to try out the pad stitching on a lapel, so that it forms the lapel very nicely and it stays put in that position as you sew it down. But I was not sure how deep the neckline really is. So, and I don't know if that would impact then the lapel. Oh, sorry. If that would impact the lapel and how it folds then on your front. So the button is quite deep, and I knew that maybe I have to insert another button. So I have another stud button here, and the big one over here. And I thought, if I do the lapel stitch, how would that impact the structure of the lapel, and how would it then look when you button it up completely? So I left that out. I would definitely like to try that in a different project. But yeah, I was not sure if that would then create some strange fold lines. I don't know. Maybe if you have any experience with that, let me know that, if that would be an impact or not. But I was not sure, and I didn't want to ruin the coat, so I stick with just putting the interfacing in and don't pad stitch anything. What else is on my notes list? Yeah, one thing, and I think that is purely the fabric of the lining, since it is so nice and drapey and slippery as hell. While I cut it down, the fabric must have shifted for the body, but also for the sleeve, because when I sewed in the lining here on the main fabric, I have now a little bit of puckering here, and also on the other side. I try to even it out that it's not super obvious. I mean, no one will notice it anyway, just me who was annoyed by the fact that there's some puckering. But yeah, apparently for me it was too long. I don't know if the fabric shifted. I think it shifted, but the other way around it was with the sleeve. With the sleeve, the fabric was more narrow. And I don't know if that is intentionally so that the sleeve would cinch in a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it is supposed to be like that, but I maybe just did a mistake while I cutted everything out. But yeah, this is definitely a thing that I have to be more careful for my next project that is completely lined. Another thing, and I don't know why that is not really a thing with sewing patterns. If you make a coat, and I think it was the same with all the other coats that I had, at least the McCall's coat that I'm still having, the autumn and spring coat, none of the patterns come with this little thingy that is needed if you have a hook to hang your coat. Because of course I have coat hangers at home, and most of the places have coat hangers, but I often find myself in a situation that I am somewhere, usually my hairdresser or friends that don't have coat hangers, that I need to put my coat somewhere. But yeah, if you don't have this little thingy, how do you attach it? And I don't like to put my coat like this on a coat hanger because I'm so afraid that the fabric will get damaged, which of course is maybe just stupid. But yeah, I didn't like that the pattern does not give you a little strip or a little hint like, hey, put that in, insert that in. So I just sewed it up myself because I need that in my coat, and I think it's a mandatory piece for a proper coat, at least for my standards. Yeah, one thing about the vent that I think I showed it before. So that's the vent. It is quite elaborate to make, definitely. And the instructions are good. The instructions are in general like super nice and well written, but with the vent I had some problems. Problems is maybe a little bit too much to say. I had a twist in my brain, and I went to their tutorial. They have one tutorial for the vent on YouTube, but since they use just a flat piece, not the whole coat, it was obvious what they are doing, and it seemed, yeah, okay, I can do that, but how do I handle all the layers of fabric that I have? You know, if you have just like a flat piece, it looks easy. You don't have the side seams, you don't have the seams that are already set in of the from the lining. So I was lost a little bit there. I think I managed it quite nicely. It looks, yeah, I would say it looks neat for the first vent. So I'm definitely happy with that. Definitely. Is there anything else on my list? Oh yeah, right. Now we are coming to the wearing part, which leaves me a little bit sad, I have to say, because I finished this coat right after the cold season in Germany, and I think I had once the chance to wear that little coat here in Germany, because yeah, this is super warm and toasty, and even if I don't wear, not that I don't wear anything underneath, but I mean in terms of a cardigan or just, yeah, not just a shirt, it is too warm for me. I think nowadays it would also be just too warm if you go with a shirt underneath. So I had once the opportunity to wear it. It is amazing. It fits perfectly. It's cozy, nice. It looks very elegant. But yeah, it is too warm right now for Germany, definitely. One thing I have to get used to is the pockets, because I'm very much used to side pockets, so pockets in a side seam that way, so that I can just put my hands in the pockets. Nice, I can walk. With that coat, you put your hands like you look like a penguin, I guess, and just wobble around. but yeah, it's just me. I have to get used to the new posture, but it was very weird to put the hands inside the pockets, because it is, yeah, I don't know, it feels a little bit unnatural to me. But yeah, if that is my only complaint, I think that is something I have to learn with that coat, that I have to use a different posture, or maybe in general get a better posture of my back. So yeah, if you're in need of a new coat for next season, definitely I would recommend that pattern. It is very well written, it is super nice and elegant, and yeah, I'm very pleased that I finished the coat just out of time. But yeah, at least next year I will be warm and cozy for the winter season. My next make that I would like to show with you are actually 3 items. These 3 items are all one sewing pattern, which are the Greenstyle spark tights. And I realized in, I think mid-February it was, that I maybe need some new clothes for my travels. I will go on holiday to Japan in October, but I like to give myself plenty of time to think about the projects that I need for this travel. It's not that I sew everything again, but I do have some of my pieces in my wardrobe, especially my travel wardrobe, or things that I use for traveling and other activities all year around, that are so loved and worn to death. Basically, they deserve to retire. And I do have my own pattern drafted for leggings, but I think the fit is not perfect yet. And my thought process was that I give this spark tights a chance to see how they fit, and maybe in which areas I can improve my leggings pattern. So the first thing I will show you is the prototype that I did for the pattern, and the pattern comes in a very good size range, so it's very size inclusive. But we have here the problem for me, who lives in the metric system, that they only come in imperial measurements, which is quite unfortunate. But yeah, I didn't even convert them to centimeters, honestly. But yeah, so they have a wide range of inches that are covered, now that I have to say it like this. But yeah, so the waist measurements range from 22 to 57 inches, and the hip from 32 to 62 inches. What I don't include here, but what I really like about their pattern is they also give not just these 2 measurements to you, but also the mid-thigh and the calf size, the circumference of that, so that you know how you have to adapt that pattern. Because I mean, it's a sports pattern, and most people who do sports don't fall into the categories of standard designers anymore, since yeah, you build up muscles. And I really like that they give you more options than to choose and pick what kind of size you really need for your body. The only thing that confuses me is with their measurements for the waist and the hip, they have like precise buckets, and the other things are more span. So that means for the hip you have something maybe like 26 to 27 is one size, but then 28 to 29, and I'm confused. Where's the other inch? Where does it belong to? Does it belong to nowhere? I don't know. It confuses me greatly, but maybe someone else knows the logic behind that and can explain it to me. That would be awesome. But yeah, back to the pattern. It is recommended, of course, for performance fabric that have 75% horizontal stretch and 50% vertical stretch, and it is roughly what you need for sewing a pair of leggings is 1 1/4 to 1 3/4 yard. The skill level for this pattern is a confident beginner, and I would agree. Nothing is too complicated. You can make it as complicated as you want to, but the only fiddly bit is for the crotch piece. There's one point where I would say it's maybe confusing, but still super manageable. Nice pattern, good instructions. So for me, I measured myself, and the hip and the waist is straight in size D. That's perfect. My mid-thigh, though, since it is not just one bucket, but you have a range, I can go from a size D to a size F, and my calf size is a size E. I was not sure how I should handle this with the prototype. So what is a good approach? To just go for a straight size D? Should I go for a straight size E? Or should I grade in between? And I thought for the prototype it's just the best to try it out with the plain size D, and then from there check how I have to approach the rest of the project. Since it is Imperial, I made the great mistake, and I did the same mistake with their patterns once before. Luckily I could fix it there easier than here, but after I finished everything, I sewed everything up and I tried it on, I was like, well, that's very tight and it is very low on me. And I thought that I used the, what was it? I think they have a very high option for the waistband, and I used the highest to just see how high it really is. And yeah, I realized I messed up with the seam allowance. Instead of using a seam allowance of around 1 centimeter, I used 1.5 centimeters. Boy, let me tell you, it is very tight. I mean, tights. Anyway, they're still good enough to wear around the house when no one sees it, or in the home gym when no one sees it, but they are definitely pulling down on me, so it's nothing I would wear outside. And also, this is a very cheap performance fabric. It is very good, even though it was super cheap, but I don't like the pattern of the fabric and the color. I think it's definitely nothing I would like to wear. I thought it was cool when I saw it in a store, but now that I have it in my hand and or saw it on myself, I don't like it anymore. So therefore, this is some fabric that I now have for prototyping, trying stuff out, and don't be too afraid if I ruin it, as I did. So yeah, from there I thought, yes, it is super tight, but maybe I can go away or come away with still a straight size D. So for my next make, which I cannot show you in person, or maybe I can stand up a little bit, I'm still wearing, or not still, I am wearing it because it's super comfy. I used fabric that I bought 8 years ago after my travel to Chile, when I saw everyone with fancy colorful leggings over there, and I was in love and I wanted to have a leggings like that as well. I didn't sew it up until now, and the fabric is, I think, not really a performance fabric. It is maybe a bathing suit fabric. It is slippery-ish, but yeah, I really like the fabric, but I would say I would not go outside with that. Maybe if I go for surfing or something, that would be a fabric I would wear on a surfboard, but it's nothing I would like to wear outside, or maybe with a tunic over it, because I think it's a little bit translucent. So that makes me worried if someone can actually see my panties, which I would not like. But yeah, one thing I did here differently is that they say in instructions you can also use power mesh as a fabric, and I used it for the waistband. So my waistband, I will put up a detailed picture. I used for the waistband lining the power mesh, and oh boy, it's so comfy. So everything is held in place, really. You don't have the impression that the tie is moving on you, so it's perfect. But I think it's maybe a little bit too tight. I'm not 100% sure, and also on my calf I can definitely see it's too tight there. So I think it is definitely not my size, at least at the calf area. So what I did then is I thought I can use the bigger size, the size E instead, and use the fabric that I bought for a sports set that I want to do. I hope I will not be too negative about that fabric, but that fabric is such a disappointment to me. So that fabric is less stretchy than the blue one that I'm wearing right now, the very colorful one, but it is still a performance fabric, though they say it's like a very shiny, good performance fabric with all the properties that you actually want for a fabric. But yeah, that is the other fabric that I choose, and I said, okay, I will definitely give it a try with a size E, since the size D would not work with that pattern. So now the problem begins, because I noticed while I was cutting out the fabric that the fabric is not a performance fabric for me. this fabric feels more, it feels super silky, which I thought would be nice on the skin. Yeah, I don't know. But the problem I would see, it's super fragile, and even while cutting I had some letters coming up from the fabric sometimes, and I never had that in a fabric. I know that from cheap tights that you buy at the grocery store because you just need some tights right now, but I never had it in a fabric before, and they have it. And that was my first moment of, ooh, what's going on here with that fabric? And then I noticed also that it is pulling a little bit on the threads, and I was afraid that this is not just one thing that happens just occasionally, that it will happen again and again. And I put my fear aside, sewed everything up in a size E, and put it on. I thought, great, amazing leggings. The hiccups on the sewing table, forget about it. They fit perfectly, they feel good. I will wear them tomorrow. And I went to bed happily. Next morning comes, I go on my bike, did a short ride on my bike to the other apartment, and I noticed that this fabric doesn't feel good at the skin when you sweat. It becomes very slippery, which is nothing that I'm looking forward for on a fabric that I use for sports. If that is a fabric that is just a fashion fabric, okay, I don't expect anything good if I do sports in it, but they really describe it as a sports fabric that is durable and whatnot. But I was afraid, so I came home with that fabric, and I was not sure if I like it. Before I being too negative, I thought, okay, let's sleep over that again one more night, and then I will go for a run with that leggings. And oh boy, was I disappointed after the first run, because I'm wearing a running belt, because I don't like pockets in my, even though, let's say that maybe it has pockets on the side, but I don't like pockets on my clothing when I'm working out. I need to have my stuff secured on me, so my phone, my key, and maybe a credit card if I go for a long run. So I'm wearing a running belt, and I usually tuck the running belt into the waistband a little bit so that it doesn't bounce around so much, even though I pull it tight. But I want the extra protection of the waistband against the running belt. And the moment I used that, I think I have to put up a picture maybe to see it, the fabric rubbed off. And that's not the only place where that happened. It happened on multiple places. And I thought, wait, that is the first run that I do on that leggings. It's maybe just a 5 kilometer, no, it was 8 kilometer run, so nothing dramatic. And how will that fabric behave if I put like 3,000 kilometers on it? So I thought, okay, no, I'm definitely skeptic about that fabric. Tried to contact the manufacturer. They of course never came back to me. So I don't know. Maybe I also have to mention that I am expecting, if I buy a fabric that specifically says it's a performance fabric, it's a sports fabric for activities, I expect very much of it, especially since that is not a cheap fabric. I think that was the most expensive fabric that I ever bought for performance stuff. I have a very trusty supplier that I use for all my good outerwear, and either for leggings or shirts, and all of the very high quality fabrics that I buy there are a little bit cheaper than that stuff. So I have one pair, I checked it up, I have one pair of running shorts that I sewed around 2019, maybe 2018. So I think they roughly have the 3,000 kilometers on them, and nothing like that happened to them. And I was running with them in the summer, in the winter, with the running belt, with the running vest, and I put a lot of stress on that clothing. But nothing like that ever happened to me. So I'm super disappointed by this fabric, and therefore I'm not 100% sure if now the size D or E is something that I have to sew for myself for this specific project. So I have to do some more try and error, and maybe check with the other fabrics that I have in my stash, because I do have 2 dark or black fabrics that are suitable for long sleeve leggings. No, for these leggings, not shorts. And yeah, I will check if the outcome is more satisfying and what the stretch percentage on the other fabrics that I have is. And then I will make another attempt. But yeah, I'm happy with the one that I'm wearing. I'm not so super happy with the other pair. I mean, I can still wear it in a gym to lift weight or anything like that, but for running, it's definitely not made, even though they are warm. But yeah, I am definitely not convinced. So I hope that didn't sound too negative, but at least my last project is the one that was a very successful project. It is also, when I will do the proper garment out of that, this pattern is also for the collection that I would like to take with me to Japan. I am searching still in the process of searching for nice shirt patterns or shirt inspirations, because I think I have my perfect shirt pattern as a block, and I think I will just adjust that to whatever pattern or inspiration comes to my mind. But I'm going for shirts that have some interesting detail in either construction, seams, whatever, some nice little details that make a boring, let's say, shirt more interesting. And I saw on Pinterest a nice sports, I think it was a running shirt that has one slit on one side and it was cropped. I think it's nothing I would wear for running, but I thought that this might be a nice and interesting feature for the high-waisted option, since it is a very high-waisted leggings pattern, to have a crop top with some side slits. So I pulled out my block that I drafted, just elongated from the underarm seam straight down to the waist, the seam. And from the waistline up, down, I have a slit. So nothing too fancy, easy to draft. If you have the pattern, of course, not everyone knows how to draft or is afraid of drafting it, but if you know how to draft, it's, I would say, an easy, quick project that you can do and whip up in no time. So I made that, super happy, and this is made out of, I think, a viscose jersey. I use the viscose jersey usually for at-home wear, sometimes for outerwear, but I'm not the biggest fan, especially in the warmer months. I tend to like merino the most, and the finished garment then for Japan will definitely be merino and not a viscose jersey. So yeah, super happy with the last project that I finished, and yeah, can't wait to make that in a merino fabric. Right, and now I forgot my other projects. So professional, so prepared. Not. So one of the first work in progress projects that I have is the, oh god, I hope I pronounce it right, Veiiko pattern. It's a backpack pattern from Hanse Daily. She is a German designer, but also has some of her patterns in English. I stumbled across the designer, I think, during the Christmas season, and found some regular bags, but also she has one bag pattern that is the Veiiko. It reminds me a lot of the backpack from Peak Design, which I use. A friend of mine has it, and I use it all the time for traveling, if I just go by cabin luggage. And the style lines are quite similar, and all the details are quite similar to this pattern, so I thought I would give it a try. And yeah, I'm here, that's my project bag, and it's not too evolved yet. So I have the front piece, the back piece also has already the straps in it, and all the other things. I think I've made some more progress, but yeah, it's still in a work in progress state, especially when you see this. That is already my always my prototyping fabric. It's a very inexpensive pattern, not pattern, why do I always want to say pattern? It's a very inexpensive fabric from IKEA that I use for muslins prototyping. I call it prototyping most of the time. due to my profession. But yeah, I prototype all my projects usually first in that, and then from there I go with the fabric that I would like to use. So yeah, I started with that pattern. It has 1,000,000 pages, so it's a lot of pieces that you have to sew together. I mean, it is a backpack and it has lots of options of how you would like to have your interior design or the interior details, and therefore a lot of options, and the instructions are just brilliant. You have everything lined out, everything is photographed with patterned fabrics so that you can see the right and the left side of the fabric, and I would say you really see what you have to do all the time. So first time I used her patterns and I'm absolutely in love. So what I will do is hopefully finish that soonish to know how I like the size and the fit with the straps and the closure mechanism, because I think the closing mechanism that she has, I will rotate it a little bit because I like a different one more. It's more suitable for me. But yeah, I will make this up without the zippers and everything, just to see how it looks, and from there I will then decide on how I go on with that project, because oh god, I think the world is collapsing. I hope you cannot hear this. Because when I finish this small backpack in the original size, I would like to give that a try to expand it and make it into a cabin-sized backpack, so that I can take it with me in the cabin to Japan, because I don't want to go with any other luggage. And yeah, so this is also basically one of the projects for Japan. But that will take me definitely a lot of time to figure everything out. Therefore, I'm glad I started early. So yeah, this is my first one. I will link the pattern in the description. Maybe one thing, if you're interested in the dimensions, the finished object should be a width for the backpack of 31 centimeters. That correlates to 12 inches. The height is 45 centimeters or 17 3/4 inches, and the depth of the backpack is 16 centimeters or 6.5 inches. All the instructions the English ones, so I bought the English ones, even though that I'm a German speaker, but I don't like sewing patterns in German I don't understand them, because I learned so much in English. Anyway, but everything is in centimeters and in inches, so either system will work for you with her patterns, and maybe it's something that you are interested in. I definitely enjoy her patterns, and yeah, I hope next time I will have at least a finished prototype to show you. The last prototype, the last work in progress object that I will show you here is the penny dress from Seamwork. There are 1,000,000 penny dresses out there that sometimes even look exactly the same. I bought the one from Seamwork, and this is one of 4 patterns that I bought during the last 2 years, in the hope that one of them will fit my bust measurements, or not my bust, my back, but none of them do. So I was super frustrated after I bought the patterns and kept them aside for a while, until I finished the fit for my woven fabrics, the bodice block for my woven fabrics, which I did I think it was in November, that I finally had a good fitting one. And I applied basically my measurements, or my bodice block, to the pattern of the Seamwork penny dress. And yeah, I'm super happy. The fit now seems to be good, or better, let's put it that way. I'm not 100% sure if that seam is perfect-ish in that sense. So I made another muslin that is on my mannequin, and this is more like a wearable muslin, because I think, and I'm not 100% sure, that the seam line of the front bodice and sleeve is maybe too tight, but I don't know yet. So my intention with that, so it is technically finished, but it is for me a work in progress, because I will never wear that fabric. I want to check if that seam is too tight or if it's fitting. So I will wear that during the upcoming week maybe, and check if I like it, if the fit in the area is good, and maybe cut also back the seam allowance that is still in there. to see if I need to do any adjustments, because I also don't want to overfit it, which, you know, there's a fine line between now it's fitting you and now you overfit it. So yeah, that is my hope with that pattern, that I will be able to fit it to my body measurements. That would be so good. I would like to have this summer at least 2 dresses that are shirt dresses that fit my body, and especially my back, since yeah, my back is, I think, quite big in comparison to what designers are drafting for. Yeah, if I get that right and the fit is good, then I will tackle the whole beast of that project, because I also found some issues and I don't know where they come from. The seam lines are not matching up. My back is currently too puffy. I just shared it in a little bit. And also the finished, I mean, why would you do that? It's really ugly to me. They finished the inside, so you have your front piece, your skirt piece, put it together, and then you have this flappy thing, and it is right here that you have this situation, which I don't know how to make it then pretty, to have a pretty inside. And so yeah, if I get the fit right, I will also think about how I can change the construction method here, because it's also an overlapping placket, and I don't like overlapping plackets, I think. But yeah, one step at a time. First I have to check if the fit of the arm scale, arm size, I think it is good now, good enough to make a garment out of that. And then I can tackle all the other issues that I now have with the pattern. If you made it that far in the video, thank you for spending your time with me, and I hope that some of the projects were inspiring to you, or maybe you even tried some of the patterns that I showed, and if so, I would like to hear your feedback on these projects, what kind of issues you had, what kind of things you liked or didn't like. And yeah, if you have any other questions, leave them down below in the comments. I'm happy to see you next time. Take care of you and happy crafting. Bye bye.